Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another awesome interview. Today we've got Lacroix Cruiser. We've got Yvan and Sylvie, and they're from Quebec. Welcome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. And everybody watching on our channel, welcome to our channel. And we have B Adventure Partners, Brian and Aaron. Or actually, it should be Ebb Adventure Partners, you know, Aaron and Brian. But nonetheless, they're building a wonderful schoolie in Southern Ontario.
Yeah.
It's really cool to meet other people in Ontario building schoolies. We're kind of few and far between, it seems, but maybe you guys have had more, because you have more experience. You've probably met more people from Ontario than us. Or like
from Ontario, not too much. From Quebec, yes, a lot.
Cool.
We have usually about 1 or 2 people a week stopping in to see the build.
Wow.
So even with the restrictions, you know, wearing masks and all that. But yeah, you know, we're very open to that. We like people to come by. When we built our first bus, there was nothing. You know, there's very little things on YouTube, not much. So we were going at it our own way of putting it. The second bus, there was a little more information out there. It was 4 years ago, so things were starting to grow. You had YouTube channels, a few, and you had a lot on Facebook. So we put that build on Facebook, and now this build, we're all on YouTube and Facebook, but to keep our Facebook fans happy, but doing it on YouTube. But yeah, so the community is growing vastly. And, you know, once you guys get on the road, which apparently is April. Yeah, good luck on that one. But anyways, you're working a lot of hours and you'll get it done. But once you get on the road, you'll see that the community is spectacular. Yeah. And the schoolie and the coach community intermix very well. And the van life community mixes in with that as well. So you'll meet a lot of great people. One event that we did last year that we couldn't do this year because of the border restrictions is Skoolie Swarm. And if you ever get a chance to go to Skoolie Swarm in Florida, it's a week of pure pleasure. Cool. It's very much a community event. So everybody is there just to help everybody else out and relax and have fun. So
wow, that sounds great. We certainly are, because we've put Ontario in the title of some of our videos and blog posts, we're certainly getting a ton of people who are like, ooh, I'm thinking about this. And then people who are just kind of getting started. Mm-hmm. And we have recently met a few people who are around here, and it just kind of seems like more and more. But the whole Canada thing, when we first got started, seems so few and far between.
It was crickets.
So it's cool the more that we get into the community, that we're starting to get that like you guys attract those people to us.
Yeah. It's interesting about the people who have been reaching out to us. A lot of them haven't bought their school bus yet or are about to, but they don't understand the process for getting it safetied and then getting the title switched over from school bus to motorhome. And do I need a Z endorsement on my license? Can I drive it with a G or do I need a D? Like there's all sorts of different things. So before we bought our school bus, originally we were shopping in St. Thomas for one, but they were all so rusted out just because of all the salts and everything on the road that we ended up flying to Phoenix, Arizona. And if anybody doesn't know me or Aaron yet, or you guys, like I'm from Texas, Aaron's from Ontario here. So we actually bought our school bus in Phoenix, drove it to Texas, got the title and registration and safety inspection and all that done in Texas and insurance there, then drove it up to Canada, big and yellow, driving across the Blue Water Bridge there in Sarnia. Flags went off. We had to go to a secondary inspection. They tore apart, like I'm gonna say tore apart the bus. The thing was empty except for like a blow-up mattress and some tools and stuff like that. But they were like interrogating us on like what we were doing. It ended up that we could drive across without a problem. But like getting everything done here in Canada is a completely different process. So we talked with the MTO, we talked with Service Ontario, we talked with insurance brokers, and we ended up putting together a list of things to do in order to get that school bus turned into a motorhome. So we posted a blog post about it, but we had never done that process. And so we were giving that information out to people, and we were saying, hey, when they reach out to us, we haven't done this. Let us know if this works. And if it doesn't, tell us what you did. So we actually recently, a couple weeks ago, had a guy reach out to us and said, hey, I love your article. Here's how it actually works. And it was spot on, but there were a few little tweaks we had to make. So we went ahead and published his story also. Anonymously, because he was like, I don't want people to know it's actually me. So it was like anonymously posted. So now we're confident in helping other people who are in Ontario cross these hurdles, because now they've got an actual step-by-step, this is what you need to do in this order, this is what you need to tell all the different people, and you'll make it happen. So it's cool.
In Quebec, Ontario is easy compared to Quebec.
Really?
Here you have to hire engineers to follow the project. It's very difficult. But if you import a bus that's already titled as an RV, it's almost impossible to have it untitled as an RV. So it's not the title that confuses them. It's trying to change a title. So the first bus we bought here in Quebec, and it was already titled as an RV. So that was good. The second bus we bought in Texas, Midland, Texas. So I don't know if that's anywhere near where you're from, but like everybody, you're from the States. Someone hears that Aaron is from Ontario. It's like, oh, I know Joe in Toronto. Do you know him? So yeah.
Oh yeah,
but anyways, yeah, exactly. But so we bought that one in Midland, Texas. Title is an RV. We used a customs broker to bring it across the border, which was all of 15 minutes. We had less time at the border with that bus than when we normally cross.
Wow.
Yeah, it was super simple. Brought it home, had the safety inspection done. And when they do the safety inspection, they inspect it as a commercial vehicle. Even though its title is an RV, it's inspected as a commercial vehicle. Then you're rubber stamped, you're an RV. The bus we're currently building, we bought that one in Arizona, brought it up again, the customs broker, and this time we had both buses because we weren't planning on buying another bus. It just came to us, we'll put it that way. And Sylvie was driving the GMC. I was driving the newer bus to get it across the border because Sylvie's English is not exactly perfect. No. She's a little shy to speak in English. So with the border crossing, we didn't want to have to deal with that. So it took me less time to get across the border through the commercial lane with the customs paperwork than it did her with the bus in the in the RV lane. So if you're importing a bus from the US, make sure it has the RV title, because in many states it's a lot easier to get an RV title than it is anywhere in Canada.
Right.
Wow.
And like you guys noticed, the buses in Canada aren't necessarily in the greatest shape. What year is your bus?
97.
97. Okay, ours is a 95. Finding a late 90s bus in Canada, it's going to have rust. Ours came from Arizona and it had rust. So, I can imagine, a bus from here. The bus that we bought that spent its life in Quebec was actually in great shape because that bus was basically all aluminum. So it didn't have a rust issue.
Wow.
But the newer GMC bus has a bit of steel, a lot of aluminum, and then the MCI is mostly all stainless steel, a bit of aluminum, and a few steel pieces that we had to replace because they were rusted.
Cool.
So going back to when you crossed over the border, you were talking about going in the commercial lane. Some crossings I've seen have like cars, then they've got RVs, and then they have the truck and commercial. When we crossed at the Blue Water Bridge, it was car, and then there was a commercial. There was no RV. The commercial lane was a mile long at least. The car lane, we could see all the way up there, and there was nobody at any of the green lights. So I was just like, we're not a commercial vehicle, so let's just go to the car one. So we went to the car lane, and I don't know if that was an issue. Like, what are you supposed to do in those situations?
If you're using a customs broker, follow the instructions of your custom broker. And the customs broker is a very well spent $350. That's what it cost us. But when you're importing something, it's through the commercial lane. When you're actually driving it, so you're keeping your bus titled in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Since you're a resident of Texas, so much easier process. In that case, the RV lane was the right choice, or the car lane.
The car lane, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, when you're coming down off the bridge in Sarnia, you know, like you say, you can see all the lights down at the bottom, and and that's actually the only place that we got pulled over coming into Canada.
Really?
That we were coming back. They pulled us over. They spent an hour going through the bus with the dogs, you know, making sure we weren't importing drugs or Mexicans.
Wow.
And
Hey, mío. Soy medio mexicano.
yeah, exactly. But how did we get here? But yeah, so it just made it, you know, we had no stress. We weren't carrying drugs, cars, or anything else. So, but that was the only time we've been pulled over and inspected.
Wow.
And then going into the U.S., if they happen to flip through my my passport, that's when we have issues. Because I've traveled a lot, and they see places like Saudi Arabia, Russia, Kuwait, India. They start stressing out. Why do you travel to all these places? And I teach, so I teach all over the world. And so when they see, you know, you've got a work visa for India, you have a work visa for Russia, you've got a work visa for all these places, why are you coming to the U.S. without a work visa? It's like, well, I'm not here to work. Now I'm on holidays. We're a retired couple in an RV, and it passes. So, but yeah, the border is, you know, always a fun event.
Yes.
Yeah. And always schedule an extra 4 hours just in case.
For the
How long
shake.
did it take you guys to, once they inspected the bus and all of that?
Okay, to get through, I think it was only like an hour or so.
Yeah, probably about it.
Oh, not too bad.
Not too
It wasn't
bad.
too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first kiosk, the guy was like, yeah, he ended up starting to like yell at us through the window, and it was just like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, you can ask him questions all day long, but he was like getting like elevated, and I was like, I don't even know what's wrong with this guy. Like, I had no idea.
Maybe a bit of bipolar or something.
And then when we went to get inspected, the guy at the counter there, he was like RoboCop, but he was like completely like just a silent face. And
All
he
the
was just,
guys looked the same too. It was
Yeah.
really weird. They were both like kind of like gingery blonde guys and like little buff guys.
yeah.
It was really weird. It was like they had hired twins or something.
They were just on a Timmy's withdrawal. So
Yeah.
those of you from the States, a Timmy's withdrawal is missing coffee.
Yeah. It's like a Starbucks or maybe like another coffee shop.
Time or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you're, you know, partially a Canadian citizen, Brian, you know what a double is now?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've known about that for a long time.
Very good. So the reason we convened this was to discuss Skoolies versus coaches, or Skoolies and coaches, not versus, but what are the advantages and disadvantages of each? Because that's a question we get a lot.
Yeah.
You know, why did you choose a coach? Why not a Skoolie? And from your perspective, what are the advantages of a Skoolie?
For me, I think it really depends on what year you're going with, because once you start going with a newer school bus, then the electronics start getting more complex versus the older ones. It's more of a mechanical push rod sort of thing.
We didn't want to deal with the supercomputer techie stuff. So
Which is why we went with an older one.
Older bus.
Same here.
And also, I think the big thing was RVs explode on impact. And Brian was a firefighter, and he's like, have you ever seen an RV crash? And I was like, no. And then he showed me photos of them, and it looked horrific. And then he's like, look at what happens to a school bus, and they literally just like roll over. And
maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Or you see the car that they hit, or the car that ran into them, just completely demolished, and it's all like, well, you're going to have to put a little rattle can Rust-Oleum or rust coat on that spot.
Yeah. There might be a cracked window somewhere.
Yeah.
No, and the RV hits a fly and it disintegrates. So yeah. For us, our first bus, we were looking for a Skoolie and came across a coach. And that's how we got into coaches. But coaches have the same, strength and solidity of reputation that school bus has, because they're susceptible, or they're held to the same standards when it comes to safety.
Yeah. So
you can roll one of these, don't do it on purpose, but if you roll one, you're going to walk out, you're going to survive. And like you say, a bit of Rust-Oleum here and there, maybe a dent, a broken window, and you're good to go. So yeah. So safety for both is actually if you're looking at RV versus bus, there's no comparison.
No.
Did yours come with underbody compartments and stuff?
Yeah. So that's the big advantage of a coach is what we call the basement.
Yeah.
So in the GMC that we're sitting in now, there's over 400 cubic feet of underbelly storage built in all the way across. There's no frame. They're monocoques. So it's 8 feet wide. So you've got an 8 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot box times 4.
Wow.
That's nice.
So we had to build ours in the underbody.
And you did a wonderful job.
Thanks. Yeah. So we have a rear engine, so there's no drive shaft that goes through the middle. So yours is a rear engine also, right?
Correct. Yeah. So most coaches from the we'll say the 30s on forward are rear engine, are pushers. In the RV world, we're pushers.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But for people who don't know what a pusher is, that's what that is. It's versus a puller has the engine in the front, and then the drive shaft goes to the rear tires. And then a 4x4, all 4 sets or all 6 wheels spin.
Yeah, exactly. Or 8 in our case, because we have a tag axle. But and there's only 4 drive wheels. The tag axle is just there to help support the coach.
Hold weight.
But the pusher aspect, and whether it's a school bus or whether it's a coach, to me is a great advantage over a front engine school bus, because you don't have the noise of the engine. Yeah. It's a little harder to access to work on, but it's so much quieter.
Yeah. Well, something I liked about the Thomas that we got, Thomas Built Buses is the brand or whatever, the manufacturer. Yeah. The rear engine is actually really easy to access stuff on this particular model because there's side doors that open up. And the whole rear end opens up. So so far we haven't had any issues doing anything that we needed to back there. Recently we installed an engine block heater because
that was a little awkward looking.
That was awkward, but to access that, it was from underneath. So it was just wide open under there. So we just went up there and took a couple hours just because of the awkward positions and stuff, but was able to do it without having to remove the turbo or anything like that. So that was good.
Yeah, with the coaches, they're meant for revenue service, like the school buses. So serviceability is a much easier thing than any RV because they're meant to be serviced. In the GMC, the engine is actually sideways. So it's like a front wheel drive car, but backwards.
Wow.
So the engine is sitting sideways. So you have access to just about everything except for the starter.
Oh, okay.
Changing the starter in one of these is not easy. But it's a V8, and the V8 is, instead of the V like this, it's like that.
Oh,
so you have one bank of cylinders that's straight up and down, and the other one is aiming out the back of the bus.
Interesting.
And then the MCI is an inline 6, and again, it has easy access from both sides like yours, plus the big doors in the back, and it's about 8 bolts. And unhook all the hoses, and the engine actually slides out on a cradle.
Wow.
That's cool.
So the bus companies, they'll have a spare engine and transmission ready to go. And if they ever have an issue with the bus, they just literally unbolt, pull it out, put the other one in, and a couple hours later the bus is back on the road.
Wow. That is super convenient.
Yeah, but we don't carry a spare engine with us, so we need that serviceability.
What about spare tires? We hear people saying, "Hey, are you carrying a spare?"
Well, up until we bought the MCI, we didn't carry a spare because we thought, we've got roadside service. We've got CoachNet roadside service.
Right.
They'll bring out a tire, not a problem. Bringing the MCI home, we had 2 flat tires at once. So the inner tire blew and took out the outer tire on the rear.
Oh, no.
Oh.
And it was I think a Sunday afternoon or something like that, or a Saturday afternoon, whatever. We called CoachNet and they said, yeah, we can send you someone in a day or 2. Meanwhile, we're in the middle of a street in some town in, I think we're in Wisconsin or Missouri. Anyways, Midwest. We're in the Midwest. Luckily, we're on a cobblestone street and it blew going 10 miles an hour. So it did no damage to the bus, but it took out both tires. The MCI had a spare in it. Yeah. Now, the spare compartment was seized, so we had to break into it. But we were able to get the spare out, put at least one wheel, one functional tire on it, and then slowly limp to Walmart and then wait for the roadside assistance. And Walmart, you guys probably experienced it on your way home, but the best campground you'll ever go to. But, we went and saw the manager say, look, it's going to be a couple days before we have the roadside assistance here. Do you mind? No, not a problem. And we were traveling with 2 buses at that point. We had the GMC and the MCI in a convoy. So we're off in the corner of the Walmart parking lot. And at that point, we changed all 8 tires on the bus. We were hoping to get it home because we knew we'd have, everybody thinks 6 months to complete the build. We're 9 months in. We're getting close, but we thought we'd have it done, 6 or 7 months. So we thought we'll put off getting the tires until we're ready to go back on the road. But blowing 2 tires at once, we thought, no, let's change them all.
Yeah.
Because tires have an age limit to them. And that age limit is 7 years. They might have great tread on them, but after 7 years, it's not safe to have them anymore.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that is good to
Definitely.
know.
Yeah.
Ours are 2018, so we still have a few years left on those.
Yeah. And, most people that own an RV don't put enough mileage on it to ever wear out a set of tires.
Yeah.
On this bus, since we put the tires on it, we've put over 120,000 miles in 3 years. So for us, we actually wear out tires. But, a good set of tires will last you about 100,000 miles.
Wow, that's good.
That is good to know. Good tip.
So what got you guys started initially in wanting to get a school bus or a coach to convert into a motorhome?
We're avid race fans. And in Quebec, there's a lot of, there's 3 primary dirt tracks that race every weekend. And there's one here in Granby where we are, there's one in Drummondville, and there's one in Saint-Marcel. The track in Drummondville is about an hour, a little over an hour away from us. And they have a tendency to end their programs a little late. They technically have an 11 o'clock curfew, but it normally extends to midnight, somewhere around there. And we would go to every race on the weekend. Now, our business was automotive detailing. We had a detailing shop in Granby, and we had a spot out front that we had customers' cars that they could put there on consignment to sell. Put your phone number on it. They, take care of your own sell. And we had a gentleman that always put RVs there, and he'd sell them within a week or 2. We had a black Mercedes station wagon, black on black, beautiful wagon. I think I could have put a clown on the roof dancing on it with a sign saying free, and nobody would have stopped. Well, finally, after a month and a half of the car sitting there, some guy pulls in and says, I'll trade you for an RV. So we're thinking, sure, what the heck? The RV will probably sell it. You're the first person that's even looked at the car. And this is a road where 30,000 people drive by every day. It's a sort of a busy road. So he shows up with a 1973 Winnebago. The eyebrow style Winnebagos, square box. It was a time machine. Other than not having the shag carpet, everything else was original. They put in a nice floor other than the shag, but everything was original. and everything worked and it was in great shape. Well, we put it there. And 2 weeks later, after it's sitting there, Sylvie says, why don't we take it to the races tonight? It's like, oh, yeah, I guess we could do that. Because at the racetrack, a lot of RVs there. So we pile in to the Winnebago, go to the races. But instead of showing up at 6 o'clock, having a hot dog or a hamburger, because that's the menu, and, you know, at the end of the races, being in a rush to get out of there and stuck in traffic because there's 3,000 people trying to escape the racetrack at the same time, and driving an hour home when it's midnight, so you get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. We went there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, pulled the barbecue out, had some steaks, watched everybody trying to park. One saw the races at the intermission, which is normally long. We were able to go back, go to our own washroom, have a seat, have something to drink, go back to the track when it was ready to go. At the end of the racetrack, or at the end of the races in the evening, went there. There were a few people with fire pits going, so sat down, relaxed, watched everybody stuck in the traffic leaving, went to bed, had one of the best night's sleeps we'd had in years. And that got us hooked. So we were, you know, that whole summer, we did the racetrack thing with the old Winnebago.
Uh-huh.
And then in the fall, we thought, well, we want to do this again next year, but a 20-foot Winnebago was just a little small. And started looking, you know, my first thought was Skoolie. They're solid, they're well built, they're inexpensive, they're going to run forever, and we can build it the way we want it. Mm-hmm. So, but knowing the titling it as an RV problem in Quebec, thought I'm going to look for one that's already titled as an RV. And while looking on Kijiji for a school bus, this 1964 GMC pops up, and he was only asking $2,500 for it. And my thought was, he either forgot a one at the, or forgot a one or a two at the beginning of it, or forgot a zero at the end. You know, it's either 12,500 or 25,000. It can't be 2,500.
Yeah.
So I called the gentleman up. He's about to turn 85 years old and lose his driver's license.
Oh.
So they had lived in this bus full time for 20 years. This was their home.
Wow.
And I said, you know, I didn't want to insult him, and I didn't want to key him off that he might have made an error on the price. So I said, are you negotiable? He said, no, it's $2,500 firm. I'll be there in an hour, sir. So at that time, the scrap aluminum prices were quite high. So we, you know, I called around and they said, yeah, if you bring us a bus, it's like $6,000 in aluminum. So at $2,500, I couldn't lose anything. So drove there, we gave them a month because they were moving to their son's place. So, you know, to clean out the bus. And a couple of weeks later, he gave me a call and said, we're ready to move. So I hired a mobile mechanic to go there, change the oil, and give it a quick safety inspection to make sure the brakes worked and all that. Yeah. And drove it out of there and drove it home. First thing we did was a mechanical inspection to make sure that the bus was worth doing the renovation in. And then we literally, when I say gutted the interior, we gutted it. They were passionate, and I mean extremely passionate chain smokers. So you can just imagine what it smelled like and what it looked like. What used to be white was now yellowish. What used to be gray was now yellowish. The windows were tinted yellow. It was, you know, very bad. When I got home from driving it, I stripped and had a shower and threw the clothes out. It was that bad. Yeah, but nonetheless, the bus did very well for us. When we started our life as, you know, living in buses, it was, again, just to go to the racetracks. And then my job, the company I was working for was in Memphis, Tennessee. And instead of flying to Memphis, getting a hotel, getting a rental car, et cetera, I told the boss, look, let me drive my bus down. I'll bring Sylvie with me. You pay the fuel to get down there, and you pay the campground fees, and we'll call it good.
Wow.
So that was our first trip. And that's when we realized that bus wasn't necessarily for us. In terms of the interior was great. but it was a slightly underpowered bus with a 4-speed manual transmission without synchronizers. So double clutching the whole way. And when you would see a hill, you'd put the 4-way flashers on because you knew that you'd be slow going up the hill. And going down the hill with a tailwind, you could accomplish 62 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that was top speed. So we started looking elsewhere. Sylvie found this bus on one of the Facebook groups. It was in Texas. And this bus has, like I say, a lot of underbelly storage. The older GMC had a bit, not as much. It was about equivalent to what you built in your bus in terms of height and length and width and all that. But this bus has over 3 feet high and almost 25 feet long of storage and 8 feet wide. So, that was one thing. And the other thing that attracted us to this bus was the engine. It's a 8V71 turbo Detroit diesel, which has a lot more power than what the other one had in an automatic. So this one cruises comfortably at 75 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, or for Canadians, 120 kilometers.
120
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ours is governed at 65 right now. And so,
Yeah.
so we need to go and get the ECM reprogrammed because
Right.
the a sixth gear that they unlock that's in the transmission. That
They just never use.
It won't shift into that gear, so it only goes into 5. And so that's just a school bus regulation thing there in Arizona, I guess, and in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily so we could go faster, but so it would
It'd be more fuel efficient.
More fuel efficient, yeah.
Yeah, in 6, it's a lot more fuel efficient because your engine is going slower, and you can keep up to traffic, which is nice.
Yeah.
When you're on the interstate and it's 6 lanes wide, and you're in the slow lane going 60 miles an hour, and the transport trucks are coming up behind you and honking the horn and having to move over and all that, it's not exactly a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can at least stay in the slow lane and do your 70 miles an hour and cruise along comfortably, and that's great. The coaches, they have this weird thing that it's uncomfortable to drive below 70 miles an hour. Without cruise control, it's almost impossible.
Wow.
The bus wants to go faster. You've been on the highway and been passed by a Greyhound or something like that as you're driving your car.
Yeah.
That's because that's the speed it's comfortable at. 120 is just 120 or 70, 75 miles an hour is just a comfortable speed for the bus.
Wow.
That's cool.
So do you have cruise control on yours?
The new one has cruise control.
Okay.
The GMC doesn't. And not having cruise control hasn't gotten us tickets yet. But, you're in an area where the speed, like in Canada, the speed limit is 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour. It's hard for us to go down the 401 at 100 kilometers an hour. You're constantly having to watch the speedometer and lift off the gas pedal and watch the speedometer and lift off the gas pedal. And before you know it, you're back up to 75. And so it's a swing up and down.
It's because you're driving a Comet.
Well, the thing is, the suspension is so comfortable and the handling, all the weight on a bus is between if you look at your tires that are 30 some inches tall, the majority of the weight is below that line.
Yeah.
So they're very hard to tip over.
Yeah.
We saw a race in Saint-Félicien, Quebec, and I'll post a link. The race is on YouTube and it's easy to find. They have a school bus race every year. So these are school buses that aren't good enough to be, Skoolies anymore. And it's almost a demolition derby, but they try to flip the buses and they can't. They're that stable. Like they're literally running into each other and the buses they're just going around the track. So with all that weight being low, the handling on these things is great, whether it be a school bus or a coach. Unless you build a stainless steel 1/4-inch thick deck on the roof, you're not gonna raise your center of gravity that high that it becomes unstable.
Yeah.
So
You guys didn't do a roof raise though?
No,
No.
not at all.
Yeah.
But speaking of raising your center of gravity, so we put our 100-gallon freshwater storage in the basement. And
Yeah.
you know, that's 8.25 pounds per gallon of fresh water at sea level. So you're looking at
Yeah.
825-ish pounds roughly if that thing is
Yeah.
completely full. So if someone mounts 100-gallon freshwater just on the floor level of a school bus, do you think that's a significant raise in the center of gravity to make it more top heavy? Or is that kind of okay? Because we've
They're
heard of
still
people
low
saying,
enough.
oh, be careful where you put your water because you're going to change your center of gravity. And like, I understand that, but like, how far higher than the floor would that really make a huge difference, do you think?
The more weight you can keep low, the better it is.
Yeah.
Our first bus had the water tank under the bed.
Yeah.
And it was 120 gallons under the bed. And you could feel a difference between the tank being full and the tank being empty.
Wow.
The driving of the
more
bus.
topsy-turvy while you're driving, or what did it feel like?
Yeah. Going around corners, you'd have a little more lean, and you'd feel the bus move a little more. But with us, we have a combined waste tank, so we don't have a black tank. We have a combined waste tank. So we have our fresh water and we have our waste tank, and they're both the same, roughly the same size. The waste is about 10% larger, just in case. But that bus, the weight would transfer from under the bed to eventually down below. The tank was 18 inches tall, the width or 8 feet wide, and about 2 feet long underneath the bus, right at ground level, or the ground clearance. So taking that 800 pounds, moving it from under the bed to down below made a big difference. So, over a week of using the bus or 2 weeks of using the bus, you'd sense a difference in the drivability of the bus.
Wow.
So yeah, the more weight you can keep low, the better it is.
That's great.
That was really, yeah. Did it take you guys a while to get comfortable driving all these big vehicles?
For me, no.
Yeah.
For Sylvie, the biggest concern was shifting the transmission in the first bus. Yeah, because a manual transmission and no synchros. So you'd have to double clutch up, double clutch down. And when you got to a stoplight, you'd have to put it into first between 1 and 1.3 miles per hour just to get it into first and then keep your foot on the clutch. If you didn't do that, you'd have to turn the engine off, put it in first, and then start it up again.
Wow.
I'd be
So, yeah. And one of Sylvie's first driving experiences with that bus was in New York City.
Sylvie, you're so brave to even get behind the wheel.
Yeah. But after that, like when she stepped into this bus, she drives a lot more than I do. Because I'm on the phone doing my consulting and all that.
Yep.
She drives. And these things are like driving a sports car. I've had, Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs. I prefer driving the bus. It's more fun to drive.
I do have to say, driving our bus when we first picked it up in Arizona, it felt like driving a go-kart compared to, I used to drive an 42-foot long, 12-foot tall fire truck that had a 105-foot aerial ladder on top, and it was 80,000 pounds. And then this thing was only like 20,000 pounds when we were driving it.
And how much water in there?
And it carried 1,000 gallons of water, the fire truck I drove also.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
Like that thing was top heavy because it had a huge ladder on top. The water was directly in the middle between the axles, but in the middle. So you make a turn and it was doing this number. And there was some pucker factor times, like getting to calls and stuff.
Yeah.
And then stopping, like your air brakes are sitting there squealing and you start smelling them and you're like, oh, don't burn them out. Don't burn them out.
Yeah.
But then jumping into the school bus, I was like, this is like a freaking go-kart. And then it was like our front wheels are behind where you sit. So the front wheels are right here. And then here's the driver's seat right here that Aaron's sitting in. So taking turns was the same. Well, taking turns in this was better than the fire truck because because the wheels on this cut tighter than the fire truck. And so I really loved that because there were some times that, you go and turn on a road in the fire truck, and you're just all like, those people in that first lane closest to me are going to have to move because it's physically, like geometrically impossible to make the turn without taking the left lane, swinging around, and it's a mess. This bus, it's like you stay in your lane and you turn and you're in the right lane on the next road, and it's like super tight. So
yeah, the buses are designed a little differently than trucks to be in a city environment. So yeah, they, you know, like you say, the wheels, they almost come out and go 90 degrees, it seems. And this bus is 40 feet long and has a single rear axle. The MCI is 45 feet long and has a tag axle, but the tag axle on it steers. So it's actually a tighter turning radius than this bus, which was surprising to us. But when we drive, we're normally behind the wheel for 8 or 10 hours because we have somewhere to go to because we're going to a teaching or a consulting or whatever. So we trade off every 2 hours. That's our general pattern. So we don't get tired driving, and you know and it's a lot of fun. You know, for myself, if I had the choice between interstate and backcountry road, I'll take the back roads. You know, and the twistier it is, the better it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better view too, better scenery. Like I prefer to drive back roads also because one, I'd rather not drive around other people.
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with it, but it's like, it's less I have to think about like, oh, who's coming up in my blind spot or like
bananas.
What's happening, you know, 20 cars ahead, because it's not like, oh, what's happening with the car just in front of me? It's like, no, it all perpetuates. Something that happens a quarter mile down the road affects us back here because it takes time to stop. It takes time to, like, if you need to change lanes, to find a hole or do what I like to call the bob and weave. If it's too tight of traffic, you take your wheel, and if there's someone right there, you have your blinker on and you just do one of these numbers and you just kind of do that. And that's a signal to everybody behind, hey, slow down because I'm going to get in this other lane, and because they don't want to, you know, collide with you.
No, exactly.
Bob and weave.
And well, it's a precautionary measure for the other ones. It's like, this guy's moving over whether I'm here or not. So I better give him the space. And we found that, you know, you're driving something that weighs 35, 40,000 pounds when everything is done. You're keeping a respectable distance between you and the next vehicle in front of you.
Yes.
Normally, it's a Honda Civic with a spoiler. You know, no, I've got no prejudice here. Sometimes it's a BMW too. But they come up and they could go past you, you know, maybe 20 feet. Maybe even 30 before cutting in, but no, it's like right there. Yeah. And they cut you off, and then, oh, my exit is here. No, again. And we were on the thruway in New York one time, and we saw a beautiful sight happening in front of us. And that was a truck that had got cut off by a car like that. The car wanted to get off at that exit. The truck didn't let him. He stayed beside him and accelerated when the guy tried to accelerate. And when the guy braked, he braked. It's like, you're gonna, because the truckers, the guy had been weaving in and out of traffic the whole time. And the truckers communicate with the CB. And I guess this one guy said, no, you've been cutting off my friends? Good luck. Yeah.
Do you guys travel with a CB?
No. And it's something we'd like to incorporate eventually. This bus had a CB when we bought it, but it wasn't functional. But yeah, I think it would actually be a good thing safety wise, especially in heavy traffic, for you know, communicating. One thing that we do travel with is Google, and Google Maps in Canada, not the greatest, but when you're in the US, they report everything, and you could almost drive with the blinds down on the windshield and still know that I have to brake here because of the, you know, all the analytics that they've got, that they know that the traffic is slowing down at, you know, this particular foot in the interstate. And, you know, it goes from yellow to red, and it's predictable. And Google has saved us a lot of time as well. You know, they'll say, we we've looked at the route and we have a better way to go. And yeah,
in whatever accent you have your phone set to.
yeah.
She's
So,
got a British guy talking to her.
yeah, well, Australian in our case. But what that does is it can save, you're going through a city that you don't know. And it always happens that we end up in these large metropolitan areas, either at 9 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it can save you a lot of time and a lot of stress. But the one thing with Google, it doesn't take into account the height of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was going to ask you about next, is if you know any applications or anything that you can put in the weight of your vehicle, the height, and the length, and then it adjusts your route accordingly. Because I know that some of the long distance trucking companies have Garmin apps that integrate that.
Garmin, I think, is the only one who does that.
Okay.
Waze, you can put in that you're a truck, but it still will take you the same route that Google does, because they use the same software. So that's not a happy situation when you run across a 9-foot clearance bridge when you're 12'6".
How tall are your ceilings?
In the GMC, we're at 6'3" in the center, and in the MCI, it had a 9-inch roof raise at some point in its life. It's been an RV for 15 years.
Okay.
And at some point it had a 9-inch roof raise, so we have almost 7 feet in that one.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
really nice.
But something that a lot of people don't consider, and this is especially true in the Skoolie crowd, they'll do like a 2-foot roof raise.
Uh-huh.
Well, yes, it affects the handling, but you've got another 600 cubic feet that you've got to heat or cool at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I know you guys just put in your Havelock wool, so you know what the insulation is a great thing, but also volume has a lot to say in that. So if you can keep your ceiling as low as possible and comfortable to live in, so you're not hitting your head everywhere, you're not having to walk around stooped over a duct, that's as high as you should go. You don't need a cathedral ceiling in a bus. And
like the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, exactly. We have wood on our ceiling. We don't have beautiful paintings, so we don't need to admire them from afar. But the raising the roof also limits what you can do on the roof. So for solar, for decks, and also for access to get into certain places. And if you're going to campgrounds and stuff, most RVs are around the 12-foot level. So if you're going to a campground, you're not going to be hitting branches and stuff if you're at that 12-ish foot mark. If you're at 13, you're hitting the branches everywhere because there's nobody that's gone by that's that high recently. Yeah. So that extra foot can make a difference. If you're going to do a roof raise in a Skoolie, yeah, sure, do 9, 10, 12 inches. But 2 feet, no, too much, as far as I'm concerned.
I measured from our highest point to the ground. So we put a 2x4 across, put a level on that, and then measured from the bottom edge of that. And I think that we're at about 10.6 right now. And that's our highest point up there. We're keeping it, everything super, super low up on the roof for that reason.
Right. So when you're done, with the, you're using max fans?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're driving and it happens to be open, which you shouldn't do, by the way, it breaks the covers. But, if you accidentally leave one open as you're driving, well, that adds an extra 6 inches. So you'll be under 11 feet, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
11 feet, you can get by most places. We had one situation. We were in Chicago. We had just bought this bus, and this has air suspension in it. So to get under a bridge, we had to let the air out of the suspension.
Whoa.
Or else back up in traffic, and that's not going to happen. So it's stop, let the air out, and just squeak by underneath at about 2 or 3 miles an hour just to make sure we didn't hit anything. But we could hear it had antennas on the roof that were just maybe 1.5 inches higher. Like this has a stepped roof to it, and the antennas were on the front part, which was the lower part of the step. And they extended maybe 1 inch above the air conditioner on the roof of the bus, because at that point this bus had air conditioning on the roof. And we could hear the antennas scrape.
Oh, they're so freaky.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just snuck through there. But after that, we lowered the profile of this bus by removing the air conditioners from the roof and putting in a mini split. And that was a great improvement in terms of looks. You know, you don't have these big warts on the roof, but also it gave us more space for solar. So.
Nice.
Cool.
Totally nice.
Yeah.
So with a coach or with a Skoolie, there's two types of brake systems. There's the air brakes and there's the hydraulics. Do you see a benefit to either one over the other?
It's just a different driving experience. The air brakes in a coach, they're all air because the suspension is air. Air runs everything. It opens and closes the door or whatever. In a Skoolie, yeah, you've got the hydraulics. I think the hydraulic brakes have a limit when it comes to weight capacity. You know, you get to a point where you're stressing the hydraulic system a little too much.
Yeah.
And if you have your brake booster fail, you're not having a good day. Whereas the air brakes, if you have an airline fail, the bus stops.
Yeah.
You know, when you get down below 60 PSI, it literally just stops the bus. You've got no choice. You're not going anywhere until you get air back in the system.
Yeah. That's a huge benefit that I've seen also because like the fire truck had air brakes, and then whenever we went to buy this bus, they were all like, yeah, it's got air brakes. Are you good with that? I was just like, yeah, I've driven air brakes for 9 years almost. So I'm pretty solid with that. And what's cool about Texas is when you have air brakes on a motorhome, you don't have to have an air brake endorsement at all.
No, same here in Quebec.
Not here in Ontario, though.
Oh, you need the air brake endorsement there?
You got to have the air brake endorsement, which is the Z or Z. Yeah.
Yeah. No, in Quebec, basically, the biggest thing you've ever driven in your life is a Ford Escort. You can get in a 45-foot motorhome that weighs 50,000 pounds, that's air brakes, has 8 tires on the road, 500 horsepower, can go 75 miles an hour. Yeah, that's great.
Wow.
But try to rent a 12-foot cube truck.
Yeah.
No, can't do that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Here in Ontario, also, there's a weight limit. So besides air brakes, having an endorsement for that, with a G license, which is just the normal driver's license that everybody can drive with, you can only drive up to 11,000 kilos, which is about 22,000 pounds. And then after that, you have to switch to a D or Delta license because it's more than that weight. So I'm not sure, and I haven't really talked to MTO because it doesn't really apply to us right now. Because we're not from like this bus is not going to be registered here, so it doesn't matter. But for everybody from Ontario, like, is that a huge concern to advance your license from a G to a D?
In Quebec, it's a medical exam and a written test. So I don't know what it is in Ontario, but yeah, you know, I'm actually going to go for my air brake endorsement here, even though I don't need it. It's just if we ever have a situation where we're in a state and there's I can never pronounce it.
Reciprocity.
Thank you. So a reciprocal agreement between state or provincial governments that whatever applies in your state or province is what applies in all the others. Yeah. So since we don't need that in in Quebec, it's not an issue. But if I'm ever in a state that requires it, and for some reason the state trooper is not having a good day and they just want to interfere, or want to throw some weight around, or the OPP or whatever police situation is, by having that air brake endorsement, it's just a nice little safety factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that buy RVs or buses and haven't taken the course for that particular, the air brake endorsement, don't really, they don't do a pre-drive check. We've seen a lot of people in campgrounds and, school bus gatherings that they just get in and drive. They never pump the pedal once to check that the brakes are working. And you've got, 30, 40,000 pounds that you're, driving down the road and you haven't checked your brakes, or, their air tanks, they never empty them. And they're just full of liquid and things like that. So, I think the air brake endorsement, whether you need it or not, just at least taking the test is a good thing because it's going to teach you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll teach you about brake testing just in a stationary position, how to like pump the pedal to go to complete failure so it locks them up, and then to make sure your compressor recharges you within a certain amount of time and all that too.
Right.
And if do you have leaks, just holding your foot on the pedal, does the air move? And if it goes down, you've got a problem. If it stays stationary, you're good.
Yeah.
It's little things like that people don't do. Every time we leave, we always do a walk around, and we're extremely proactive when it comes to maintenance. We make our living from this bus, so it has to be reliable. We rebuilt our engine last year, not because it needed it. Or 2 years ago, sorry, not because it needed it, but because it was time to do it. Like, we had the time and we had the funds to do it. So let's do it now. Brakes are inspected, and the brakes are adjusted about every 1,000 miles, just checked and adjusted. And everything is maintained to a T. The shocks are changed every 40,000 miles. You don't feel shocks getting worn, but when you put new shocks in, you realize that your old shocks were really worn. These heavy duty shocks are not like car shocks that will last 120,000 kilometers or 120,000 miles. At 40,000 miles, they should be replaced, and they're actually not expensive. They're about $100 each, so it's not it's not a big deal. On a school bus, it might be even less. I paid more for shocks on a car than I have on this bus. So things like that, and the brakes once a year, take them apart. Your wheel seals, your axle seals. I don't know if you've got wet or greased axles. But on this bus, they're greased. On the other bus, it's a see-through hub and they're oiled. So you need to check it. You need to check that oil level on a regular basis and change the oil once in a while. And so things like that. And our oil change is done every 5,000 miles. Transmission is done once a year. Coolant is done once a year. So maintenance is, if you want to have fun with your bus, maintain it. And one thing that, I know you guys are a little at fault for this, but while you're building your bus, keep it drivable.
Yeah.
It's cruel and unusual punishment for a bus to not drive it.
Yeah.
So.
I know that we haven't been able to. So we've got a snowbank on the back side of the barn.
Yeah.
We haven't shoveled. And then the one day that
and
we
it's
did.
grass where
I saw that video where you're drifting out of the garage.
We don't necessarily want to be in that mud pit, even once it is shoveled, it's a mud pit. So getting this thing stuck there is there's a business right here. So guys driving in and out, we wouldn't be very popular if we blocked that with a 40-foot bus.
Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks ago, I got stuck in our driveway.
Yeah. Oh no.
What happened?
Our shop is heated, a little more than yours.
Probably.
You've got a great heater in your shop, but it doesn't seem to be too effective. It's effective for about a 3-foot radius around it. And then after that, you're freezing.
3 foot and marshmallows.
Enough to warm your body.
So,
and that's it.
The tires were warm, and there's about 3 or 4 inches of snow that had just fallen on the driveway. So bringing the bus out, the tires melted the snow into ice, and it was -20 out. So it just immediately became ice. And I pulled the bus out, got out of the bus to close the garage door, and then do my walk around, because inside the garage, we can't walk around. When I got back in the bus, put it into drive, the rear wheels were just spinning. It was on ice. It just wouldn't go anywhere. So we eventually got it out of the driveway. And then once the tires cooled down to the same temperature as the snow and the ice, they were fine.
Okay.
But that heat differential just immediately melted and froze again. So it just kept creating ice under itself.
So are there any special type of tires that you use being in cold climate, or do you just use regular tires?
We just use regular tires. We've driven this bus through snowstorms, We've driven in places where cars were sliding off the road, and it felt like we were driving in July until you hit the brakes. So, but they're extremely stable with the weight that they have. You know, the tires actually go down to the asphalt. Our driveway, like yours, is gravel here, so you know we have to eat through the snow to get down to the gravel. But the once we're rolling on the road, it's not a problem. We were driving through New Jersey one year, and we wanted to get out of New Jersey because there were signs on the the highway signs, the electronic ones, saying the road will be closed at 1 a.m. There'll be no traffic or whatever. And we got out of New Jersey at 12:58, but we were driving through 8 inches of snow, and it wasn't a problem.
Wow.
So other than the wipers and that part of it, but the driving aspect wasn't a problem. So once you get moving, be stable, be smooth with all your movements. No, don't do the bump and the bump and weave. But you're fine from there. Yeah. And especially with a rear engine, you've got a lot more weight over your drive axle, so it's going to keep going forward. Steering might be more, on on your bus, especially if your water tanks are closer to the back of the bus. If you don't have enough weight on the front axle, then it might actually be a little sketchy steering. But as far as accelerating and moving, you'll be fine.
So our water tank is directly in the middle of the bus, and then the gray water is right behind that. Well, it's actually forward to the middle.
It's closer to the front wheels.
Yeah.
The
great.
Water.
Yeah.
And then the gray water is right behind that. So we tried to keep them both centered.
Yeah, excellent. And another thing that we've noticed with a lot of Skoolie builds and a lot of coach builds is people don't take into account weight distribution. And you'll see some buses where they've got, the whole passenger side, there's nothing there but windows.
Yeah.
All the weight is on one side of the bus. The bus actually leans that there's so much weight on one side. Yeah. That for your driving experience is not great, and for safety isn't great. Yeah. So, while you're building the bus, I noticed you guys are, left to right is fairly balanced, and we try to do the same thing. Like we have our kitchen on the driver's side, so we're putting our battery bank on the passenger side to counteract that weight of the kitchen. And so, things like that. Our bathroom is a walk-through bathroom, so it's balanced on either side. So things like that. But trying to keep your balance, the proper percentage front versus back, but also trying to keep it 50-50 left to right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we don't have to go over scales, we like to go over the scales once in a while just to verify and make sure. So the MCI, when it was empty, was 30,000 pounds. And so when it's full, well, when we're done our conversion, which hopefully will be sometime in April, we should be on the road about the same time as you guys. Because the GMC is, technically sold. So it should be leaving us at the end of April. So we have a deadline as well. But once we get on the road, we like to stop at scales once in a while just to make sure that everything is good and everything is square. And once you know the weight of your bus, it's a lot easier as well. And during the build, we've taken it over scales as well, just to make sure that we're keeping our percentages right and all of that. So
yeah,
that's smart.
That's really good. Whenever we finished the demolition part of it, so all the seats were out, all the subfloor, the original subfloor was out, the walls and the ceiling, I think I already said that. Yeah. Everything was out. We took it to the scale and we were at 18,200 pounds. Well, with just the seats out, because we had the seats out in Arizona and then we did everything else. With just with just 2 rows of seats, we were at 20,200 pounds. So all of that was 2,000 pounds that we took out. And then we used some of that metal for the exterior of the bus and some of the metal for other parts for like doing skins and stuff like that to reuse as much as possible. So we're still pretty low because I think our gross vehicle weight rating is 32,400 or 34,200. I forget, but it's something like that.
Yeah, ours is 48 in this bus.
But that's because you've got the 2 dual axles in the back, right?
Yeah, so we've got a lot more running gear, and that 48,000 takes into consideration that you've got 52 passengers, and they each have 100 pounds of luggage.
There you go.
So, 52 people at 200 pounds each, plus their 100 pounds of luggage. So they figure for about 300 pounds per person.
That is
so
wild.
Yeah. But this bus empty, like I said, was 30,000 pounds. So, it's a bit of weight. The GMC that we're sitting in right now, full on, ready to go with everything in it, is 30,000 pounds.
Oh, okay. Big difference.
It's basically all aluminum. So it's a much lighter, it's a lightweight coach compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
So with the full conversion in it, all the batteries, water tanks full, we're at 30,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So wrapping it up for today, any last thoughts?
Yeah. Well, for the people that are used to watching our channel, we'll have a link down below for Aaron and Brian's channel. They're a lot of fun to watch. No, seriously. You two are a loving couple and you have fun. It's something that, comes through in the video. And there's the odd little argument here and there, but Aaron's always right. So as long as, once Brian figures that out, it was good. But it's just, you're fun to watch. It's engaging and it's educational. And, you're learning as you're doing this, but you do a great job at teaching what you're learning. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like learning and regurgitating is the best way to make it stick also.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And for anybody who hasn't checked out Yvan and Sylvie's channel, it's called Lacroix Cruiser. We'll actually throw a link in the description as well, and then also a card up there at the top of the video.
And you guys
I don't know how to do that.
wealth of knowledge. Like, we're learning a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Just watching your channel, we know that other people will too. We're so impressed that you jump back and forth between French and English. That's so unique, and I'm sure not a lot of people are doing that. Like I've never seen anybody else doing that. So we're both so impressed when we saw you doing both, because I think, like, how many people, we have all these Spanish people that are jumping onto our channel recently, and we think, maybe we should be speaking Spanish more, because I think that there's a lack of multilingualism in the community. So I think that that's really cool.
And your channel is especially interesting because the build things that you do, like just the mechanics of everything that you're putting together, from building custom tanks out of HDPE and like doing your plastic welding, and even making like cool locks for your drawers using solenoids and everything. Like, that's really cool stuff. And I was looking at different projects that you've been doing. I'm like, wow, could we do that? We totally could do that. Why not? And it's so clean lines, very well put together and very well thought out. So if anybody wants a cool perspective, definitely check out Lacroix Cruiser.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up with parents that the weekend that there was nothing left to do in the house was the weekend it was for sale. So I grew up renovating homes and all that. So, and my father had a saying, and my father had very colorful language. So we may have to beep something here, but you don't know you can't do anything until you fuck it up. So until you can prove, when you have children, you say, oh, try this. And no, I don't like that. They've never tasted it before, right? But intuitively, it's green, it can't be good. So it's the same thing. When you're building something, when you're doing something, until you've screwed it up, you can't say that you can't do it.
Yeah.
And even after that, like, it's not necessarily a failure until you've decided in yourself that you are not going to continue to try something else to see if there's something that you could do differently to achieve the outcome that you're going for. Because just because you do one thing a certain way and it didn't work doesn't mean it's impossible. It may just mean that technique was a piece of crap. Try something else.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a continual learning experience. It's a lot of fun. So someone that wants to build a bus, go for it. It's just a lot of fun. Just be realistic on your timelines. Be realistic on the budget as well. You know, you guys have probably noticed that you had planned on a certain amount of money and the bank account's a little lower than you thought. But once you're done, you have no more mortgage. You've got no land taxes. You don't have to heat the house. Like for us, this bus is sitting outside and we're living in it, you know, doing quite well, but it's costing us $300 a month to heat it.
Right.
That's what it costs to heat a house. So it's not a big deal, but we don't have a mortgage. We don't have anything else to pay. We're running off solar. So we don't have, you know, Hydro Ontario or Hydro Quebec or whatever it's called. It's not Hydro Ontario anymore. I think it's something else.
Bridge.
Okay. I used to live in Ontario. So when I lived there, it was Hydro Ontario. But it's, you know, it's such a great lifestyle. And once the bus is built, home is wherever you park.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
That's so true.
Speaking of which,
so much
once our buses are built, we hope to meet up with you guys in person.
Absolutely. We'll meet up on the road for sure. Well, thanks so much for jumping on this. I don't know if this is an interview or like a hangout.
Back and forth hangout.
Collaboration.
Meeting.
Yeah.
A collaboration, a meeting, or, you know, for the older people, this was a simulcast.
And for others, it was a Zoom call.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We appreciate you asking us to hang out though, because it's always nice to meet other people and it's cool to see another dynamic duo working, and it's cool because you both work just as hard on the bus to make it your home, and you work so well together too. So it's inspiring.
Yeah.
It's always inspiring to see a duo working together. So thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And we'll see you somewhere on the road.
All right. Until next time, adventure on, friends.
Yeah.
Yep.